Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're diving into a really significant area, this idea of a potential power triangle in South Asia.
Hmm.
We're talking India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. Three nations, just, so deeply connected by history, but also full of potential.
Absolutely.
Now, we know you want to get a real grip on complex topics quickly, thoroughly, without all the noise,
Yeah.
right?
Cut through the clutter.
Exactly. That's what we aim for here.
And it's a fascinating area. The sheer number of people, the strategic importance. These three countries are huge.
Huge.
So looking at whether real cooperation is even possible, given, well, everything, their shared past, the current realities, it's just crucial for understanding where the whole region is headed.
Precisely. So our mission today is really to get to the heart of it. Could India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh actually forge a more cooperative future?
That's the big question.
We'll explore their shared history, the good and the complicated. We'll look at the current state of play, dig into their economic links, maybe find some common ground in culture.
And look for any signs of change, right? Any recent shifts.
Yes, exactly. Any recent developments pointing towards maybe more collaboration? We're using our sources directly here, aiming for the clearest, most focused picture.
Sounds good.
Okay, let's unpack this. Starting with the history, seems right. It really does lay the groundwork for so much of what we see today.
Oh, fundamentally.
Yeah.
You can't understand the present without it. The 1947 partition of British India, it was utterly transformative.
Transformative, yeah. And traumatic.
Deeply traumatic, tragically so. Creating India and Pakistan along religious lines, and then East Pakistan eventually becoming Bangladesh. It triggered just immense upheaval.
The violence, the displacement.
Exactly. Those wounds were incredibly deep, and honestly, they still impact the region today.
Indeed. And right from that really difficult start, you get these persistent tensions, especially India, Pakistan,
Yeah.
Kashmir, obviously. It's been a constant flashpoint, hasn't it, leading to actual wars, 47, 48, 65, 71, even Kargil in 99.
It's the central issue, or at least often framed that way. It casts such a long shadow.
Do you think Kashmir is still the main obstacle? Or are other things just as big now?
Well, Kashmir is definitely, deeply entrenched, hugely emotional, but it's also tied up with other things.
Like what?
Well, cross-border terrorism is a massive one. Water sharing the Indus River is vital for both, and just fundamentally different political systems, different alliances.
Right, the Cold War alignments, too. Pakistan with the U.S., India leaning Soviet, more or less.
Exactly. That added another whole layer of complexity onto an already difficult relationship.
And then there's Bangladesh. Its emergence wasn't just a simple split, was it? East Pakistan had its own serious issues.
Oh, absolutely. Systemic neglect is probably the key phrase there.
Neglect.
Economic exploitation by West Pakistan, the attempt to force Urdu on a Bengali-speaking population. These were deeply felt grievances.
Right, led to the 71 war.
The Liberation War, yes.
Yeah.
Supported by India, which was crucial. It brought independence for Bangladesh, sure, but it also baked in this lasting animosity between Pakistan and Bangladesh.
And Pakistan's view of India after that.
Deep suspicion. India's role just confirmed their existing fears about Indian dominance, about India wanting to break up Pakistan.
So, stepping back, the legacy of all this history, it sounds like more than just old arguments.
Whoa, much more. You're talking
Yeah.
divided families, people whose lives were torn apart. You're talking deep-seated nationalist narratives, often built on being against the other.
Yeah.
And overcoming those historical grievances, that baggage, it's a massive challenge for any kind of real cooperation today. How do nations move forward when the past feels so present?
That really is the core question.
Right.
Okay, so let's bring it to the present then. The current dynamics. India's size, its strength, that seems central.
Undeniably. India's position in South Asia is, well, dominant. Economically, you look at the GDP figures for 2024, India's around $3.4 trillion.
Compared to...
Pakistan's about $340 billion. Bangladesh around $420 billion.
Right.
The asymmetry is just stark.
Huge difference. And militarily, too.
Yes. Nuclear weapons, more advanced tech. India has a clear military edge as well.
Okay, so this power imbalance, how does that actually play out in their relationships day to day?
It creates a complex dynamic. For Pakistan, there's a very real perception of a hegemonic threat from India, a fear of being overshadowed, contained.
Right.
Bangladesh, on the other hand, has warmer ties with India now, generally. But they still need to be cautious, careful not to get totally pulled into India's orbit, economically or politically. India's size just naturally creates influence.
In Pakistan's reaction to that perceived threat, their foreign policy seems very India-focused.
Very much so. Historically, it's been overwhelmingly India-centric,
Mm.
driven by those security worries over Kashmir, that feeling of potential encirclement.
And the China connection.
Mm. Yep, exactly. There's strategic alliance with China, especially the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, or CPEC, all those big infrastructure projects. That's partly seen as a way to counterbalance India.
A counterweight.
Yeah. And you also have to remember the huge influence of Pakistan's military and foreign policy.
Mm.
They often view India as, frankly, an existential threat.
Okay. What about Bangladesh then? How are they managing stuck between these two giants?
They're doing a pretty delicate balancing act, actually. India is vital, especially economically.
Mm.
But Bangladesh has also been very careful to build ties with others, notably China.
China's investing there too.
Oh, yes. Significant investments in infrastructure, ports, energy. It adds another layer of complexity. It's not just about India and Pakistan. China's a major player across the region now.
Right. Okay, so history, current dynamics.
Yeah.
Let's get into the economic ties. Are they a potential bridge, or do they just add to the friction?
Well, it's really a tale of two relationships, isn't it?
How?
Between India and Bangladesh, things are actually looking pretty positive, increasingly so. Bilateral trade hit, what, $14 billion in 2023? That's pretty substantial.
What kind of trade?
India exports things like cotton, machinery. Bangladesh exports mainly textiles, jute products. Importantly, they've recently signed agreements to make trade easier, simpler visas, joint economic zones.
That sounds like real progress.
It is. It shows a definite move towards deeper economic integration.
Now, India and Pakistan, very different story, I imagine.
Completely different. Stagnation, basically,
Mhm.
driven by the political tensions. Before 2019, trade was only around $2.5 billion, which is tiny, really, given their size and proximity.
Like after 2019.
It pretty much collapsed. Pakistan suspended trade after India's actions in Kashmir. Now it's negligible, formal trade at least.
Is there informal trade?
Oh yeah, quite a bit,
Yeah.
through places like Dubai. But formal channels are choked by tariffs, visa issues, and just deep, deep mistrust.
Didn't Pakistan grant India MFN status once?
They did, way back in '96, most favored nation status. But they never fully implemented it, which just shows you how politics consistently trumps economics in that relationship.
Gotcha. And Pakistan-Bangladesh economic links.
Also quite limited, under $1 billion a year. Those historical grievances from '71, they still cast a shadow. Pakistan hasn't really fully acknowledged the atrocities, which is a major sticking point for Bangladesh.
But any movement there?
Some tentative steps recently, trade delegations, cultural exchanges,
Mm.
maybe a sign they want to move past it. There are potential fits, Bangladesh's textiles, Pakistan's agriculture. But it needs real political will.
It feels like SARC, the regional body, should be helping here, but it always seems stalled.
Yeah, SARC is kind of the classic example of potential blocked by politics.
India-Pakistan tension again.
Absolutely. It poisons the well, summits get canceled. Big initiatives like SAFTA, the South Asian Free Trade Area, they just haven't delivered because of non-tariff barriers, political fights.
What are non-tariff barriers? Like red tape?
Exactly. Complex customs rules, specific product standards that are hard to meet, bureaucratic hurdles, things designed to slow trade without actually being tariffs.
So SARC could be a platform, but...
But it needs trust first. Revitalizing it depends entirely on India and Pakistan finding some way to manage their rivalry.
Okay, so despite all these political and economic roadblocks, what about underlying connections, culture? They share so much history on the subcontinent.
Oh, absolutely. Beneath all the politics, there's this incredibly rich, shared cultural heritage. It's deep.
Like language.
Well, Hindi and Urdu are practically dialects of the same language. Bengali is huge in both Bangladesh and India. Then you have literature, Tagore, Iqbal, Nazrul Islam figures revered across all three countries.
Music, food.
Music, food, traditions, artistic styles, countless threads connect them. And even with the politics, you do see occasional cultural exchanges, film festivals, literary events, things like that.
What about Bollywood? Its reach must be huge.
Immense. Bollywood is massively popular in Pakistan and Bangladesh. It creates this, shared cultural space, a real affinity among ordinary people.
And does it flow the other way?
To some extent. Pakistani TV dramas have gained a big following in India. Their music scene is influential too, and Bangladesh has its own vibrant film industry. There's potential for collaboration there, definitely.
Are there other cultural links? Maybe religious?
Yes, that's important too. Shared religious practices, especially Sufi traditions, which are historically quite syncretic and transcend borders. Festivals like Eid, even Diwali in some communities.
And people-to-people stuff.
Crucial. Civil society groups doing exchanges, sometimes academic links, even cross-border marriages happen. These things highlight the human connections beneath the flags and borders. Cultural diplomacy has real potential, if allowed.
Those Sufi traditions, that's interesting. Less political, maybe?
Often less overtly political, yes. And they represent a deep-rooted connection that maybe offers a different narrative, away from the more hardline nationalisms. Could be something to build on for grassroots initiatives.
Okay, so history, dynamics, economics, culture. Any recent developments, anything shifting that might give some hope for this power triangle idea actually happening?
There are a few things, yeah. Some encouraging signs, maybe.
Such as?
That 2024 India-Bangladesh trade agreement we mentioned,
Wow.
that feels pretty concrete. Reducing barriers, boosting connectivity, joint projects in renewables and tech,
And it benefits both sides.
clearly. India gets better access to its northeast via Bangladesh, supports Bangladesh's vital garment industry. It looks like a win-win, potentially a model for the region.
Okay, that's India, Bangladesh. What about Pakistan? Any movement there towards more engagement?
Well, interestingly, back in 2023, Pakistan did propose resuming some limited trade with India,
Yeah.
specifically pharmaceuticals, agricultural goods.
Why then?
Probably pragmatism, driven by their own economic difficulties. They also started talks with Bangladesh about preferential trade deals.
So baby steps, maybe? Driven by necessity.
Possibly.
Huh.
Still very early stages and easily reversed, but it's just some rethinking might be happening, at least on the economic front.
And we have to talk about external players, right? China's role keeps coming up.
You can't ignore it. China's Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, is a huge factor.
CPEC in Pakistan?
Yes, and massive investments in Bangladesh, too. Ports, energy, roads. It's reshaping the whole regional map.
Good or bad?
Well, it brings undeniable economic opportunities, needed infrastructure. But there are also real concerns about debt, about strategic dependence on China, and how it affects the competition with India.
So could a stronger India, Pakistan, Bangladesh triangle help balance China?
That's one argument, yeah. A more cooperative South Asia might have more leverage collectively, could balance external influences better, rather than being played off against each other. It could lead to a more, multipolar region.
And finally, what about those grassroots efforts? Track 2 diplomacy, does that actually make a difference?
I think it does, even if it's slow and often unseen. Track 2 diplomacy, those informal talks between academics, former officials, civil society folks, keeps ideas flowing, keeps channels open when governments aren't talking.
Like Aman Kiasha.
That was a prominent example, yeah. Initiatives like that work to build trust from the bottom up. It might not change policy overnight, but it lays crucial groundwork. It fosters understanding. Vital work.
Okay, so some positive signs, some potential pathways, but clearly still massive challenges to making this power triangle a reality. What are the biggest hurdles still standing in the way?
Oh, they're significant. Number one is probably just the deep, deep historical mistrust.
Still, after all this time.
Absolutely. Allegations fly back and forth, interference in Balochistan, worries about cross-border terrorism. It creates this constant climate of suspicion. It's hard to build on shaky ground.
Okay, mistrust. What else?
Then you've got the hard security dilemmas. Military buildups, border standoffs, fundamentally different views on regional security. They just don't see eye to eye on threats.
Domestic politics too. Nationalism.
Huge factor. In all three countries, nationalist sentiment can be easily stirred up, making cooperation politically risky for leaders. Playing the enemy card often wins votes.
And the economic differences we talked about.
Yes, those disparities create fear, especially in Pakistan and Bangladesh, about being swamped by India's economy, fear of Indian companies dominating everything. It's a barrier to truly open markets.
Okay, so big challenges. But flip side, if they could overcome these, what are the real upsides? What does successful cooperation actually look like?
The potential benefits are genuinely massive. Economically, think about real regional integration, a properly functioning free trade area, building on SAFTA maybe.
What would that mean?
Huge boost to trade, investment growth for everyone, joint infrastructure projects, energy grids connecting the countries, better railways and roads. Imagine the impact on ordinary businesses, small and medium enterprises.
Beyond economics.
A stronger collective voice on the world stage. More ability to manage those external influences, like China, on their own terms.
And shared problems, climate change.
Exactly. Tackling shared challenges far more effectively. Climate change impacts everyone there. Water scarcity, the Indus, the Ganges-Brahmaputra systems are shared and stressed. Public health crises, disaster response. They could do so much more together.
Culture, too.
And deepening those cultural and educational exchanges we talked about. More scholarships, joint research, regional festivals, maybe even digital platforms for dialogue, building real understanding between people.
So the potential payoff is huge. If that's the goal, what are some actual concrete steps they could take? How do you start building this triangle?
Well, you probably need several things working in parallel. Confidence-building measures are key.
Like what?
Regular scheduled dialogues at different levels. Maybe restarting reliable back-channel diplomacy for sensitive issues. Small steps to reduce mistrust.
Economics?
Focus on tangible economic incentives. Pilot projects, maybe. Special economic zones near borders. A very gradual step-by-step approach to trade liberalization, showing the benefits clearly.
What about SARC?
Mm,
Give up on it.
Maybe not give up, but perhaps try to revitalize it by focusing strictly on the practical stuff, economic and technical cooperation. Leave the really divisive political issues aside for now. Or maybe boost sub-regional things like BBIN, and eventually find a way to bring Pakistan into similar frameworks.
And the people side.
Definitely strengthen people-to-people links. Easier visas are crucial. More cultural festivals, youth exchanges, media collaborations.
Oh, yeah.
Anything that builds bridges at the human level.
Could outsiders help? Mediation?
Potentially, in specific circumstances. Maybe the UN, perhaps ASEAN, or international financial institutions could help facilitate certain agreements or mediate specific disputes if all sides were willing. But ownership has to remain regional.
It really is such a complex picture, isn't it? This constant push and pull between the weight of history and the possibilities of the future.
That's a good way to put it. After digging into all this, what really stands out is that tension. The sheer potential economic logic, shared culture, bumping up against decades of mistrust and political roadblocks.
Right. It's like potential energy waiting to be released, but the mechanism is stuck.
Something like that, yeah.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, maybe a final thought for our listeners to chew on. We've looked at the history, the economics, the external pressures, all these forces acting on India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. But which one do you think will ultimately be the strongest force shaping their future? Will it be the ghosts of the past, those historical grievances that keep pulling them back?
Yeah.
Or will it be the hard realities of economic need, the imperative to grow and develop that pushes them together? Or maybe it's the external actors like China or others whose influence ends up dictating the path.
History, economy, or external pressure?
Hmm.
Which one wins out?
Exactly. Which factor ultimately tips the balance for cooperation or continued rivalry? It's definitely a critical question to ponder when we think about the future stability of South Asia and its role in the wider world.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.